All right, guys, welcome back to Language Arts. Today we are going to be learning about the plot elements. So, in your Canvas, if you would scroll all the way down to the bottom here, on your screen there should be a button that says Load Assignment. If you click that button, this assignment will pop up. Now, these are our follow along notes. Basically, this shows me that you are trying, you're, keeping up, and you know what you're doing. So the first thing before I teach you anything, I want to know what you already know. Because let's be honest, this should be completely familiar to you. You know exactly what this is. You've been learning it since elementary school. So before we get started, I want to know what you remember. I want to know what stuck. So what I want you to do is to click on this video called The Reason and watch it. Once you're done watching it, plot it out on the plot diagram, just so I know what you know going into this. I'll wait. Awesome. So let's get into this. So as I go through our plot elements and plot diagram lesson, you are going to be taking follow along notes. So before we do anything, I want you to choose a movie, your favorite movie, if not a movie, maybe your favorite TV show, maybe your favorite book, something that you can take what we're learning and apply to it. So for me, I might put my movie is Batman in the Dark Knight or something like that. So write your favorite movie here. And then as we go along, you're just going to fill in the missing words. So what you would do is just double click on the yellow and type in whatever word is missing. That will cause this line to go away, but the yellow highlighted part will stay. So here we go. How do we do this? Okay. So like I said, this should look extremely familiar to you. We've been doing it since elementary school. So what is the plot? The plot is a series of related events set in a particular pattern and sequence that create a story. So that first part of the plot diagram is called the exposition. There we go. So the exposition is here to set up the story. It's here to introduce you to the characters and their personality. It lets you get to know them, know their background. And it's also there to introduce you to the where and the when of the story. Where is this taking place? When is this taking place? And this is really important because, if you're reading a book on World War II, it's going to look a lot different than a modern time. So you really want to know the setting, the where and the when, and the main characters. It really sets up the book or the movie or whatever it is. Then the next part is the conflict. Now, if you look at the plot diagram, so that first little line is your exposition. And then there's like this corner piece. And that corner piece is the inciting incident. That's where it starts to go from a flat into the mountain. And that inciting incident is where the conflict starts. It's something that starts the plot off. It's where the conflict starts. Now there are 4 different types of conflicts. And the first one would be man versus self. And with man versus self or character versus self, this is an internal conflict. It's a struggle with their own feelings, their doubts, their fears. So for example, let's talk about Rocky Balboa. Rocky Balboa overall is a movie about that the conflict is man versus man because he fights the guy at the end, right? However, if you actually watch the movie, there's a lot of man versus self conflict within Rocky because at the beginning of the movie, he's not the greatest guy. He's not super confident. He's got a lot of, work issues and he's really struggling. But over time, as he prepares for this fight, he's gaining that confidence. He's becoming a better person. He's preparing and building that muscle. So it's all man versus self. And then, like I said, then the overall conflict is the man versus man. The second one is man versus nature. Now, this is an external conflict. The difference between an internal conflict and an external conflict is an internal conflict you can't always see because it's happening within the person. But an external conflict you can typically always see because it's happening outside of that person's control. So, man versus nature is a conflict that struggles with weather, animals, environment, something like Jurassic Park or Jurassic Universe or whatever they're calling it nowadays. Um, the characters are trying to stay alive and not be eaten by dinosaurs. That would be a man or character versus nature situation. Moving on, the third conflict would be man versus society, which is another external conflict, meaning it's happening outside the person's control. And this is a conflict where a person or a group of people are going up against laws, a group or a belief or the government. So this is where your dystopian novels and dystopian movies would come into play, like Hunger Games, Katniss going up against Pandam to take down the government and make the world a better place. Maze Runner, Divergent, all of those types of movies, books, are man versus society. And then the last one, as I mentioned before, is man versus man. And this again is an external conflict. It's a struggle between two characters, typically your protagonist and your antagonist. So this would be like in the Avengers, it's the Avengers going up against Thanos to have this big, huge fight where they have to defeat the bad guy. And then continuing on, once we start climbing that mountain after the inciting incident, we have rising action. Now, rising action is going to be 80% of your book or movie. This is where the meat of the movie or the book is coming from. It's all rising action. It's all leading to the climax of the story. So like I said, the first 10% of your book or movie is probably exposition, inciting incident, and setting up everything. And then once that inciting incident happens, the next 80% of the movie is all rising action. And the rising action is a series of events that take the majority of the story, like I said, and it usually includes the struggles, adventures, mini quests of the main characters, things like that. So think Harry Potter. Harry Potter, his overall conflict is man versus man, right? And he has to fight Voldemort at the end. However, in every movie, there's a set of mini conflicts, many little adventures he has to go on. So, for example, in the first one, he also has to play Quidditch and win in Quidditch. And he also has to deal with the bullies like Draco, but he also has to figure out how to get around this three-headed dog and save his friends. There's lots of mini adventures and mini conflicts happening in the rising action. It's not all just one big thing. So then the next one is the climax. At the very top of the mountain is the peak, and that is where the climax happens. This is usually the most intense, suspenseful moment in the story. It's the most exciting part also. This is the point in which the conflict either gets solved or becomes worse. This is that part in the movie where there's that final fight. In the Avengers, Captain America says, Avengers assemble, and they all go and fight Thanos. This is, your true crime doc film where they're in the court and the lawyer is giving his final argument, and then the jury will go and, make their decision. This is that final action where in a movie, that big fight happens, or the intense emotional moment where somebody finally dies. It was expected, it was coming, and somebody important dies. So that is all examples of climax right there at the top. After the climax, the next 10% of the movie or book is falling action and goes into the resolution. So that falling action is all the events that happen after the climax. So this would be Tony Stark dying. This would be Captain America going back in time and realizing, you know what, I don't have to go back to, where I came from. I can stay back here in the 40s and 50s. And it usually has your explanations, it ties up loose ends, it reveals, other things that were going on. It should ideally leave you with no more questions. And then here at the bottom is your resolution. This is how the problem of the story is solved or worked out. And the reader may have some sense of closure unless you are reading a series and it ends on a cliffhanger. Now, at the end, once you've plotted out your plot diagram, you're not quite done. Back in 7th and 8th grade, and probably before that, you should have learned what a theme is. So just one more time, a theme is the central idea, the insight about life or human behavior that reveals the story, that the story reveals. And so how would you find that? The theme, first of all, I get this with a lot of my 7th graders when I ask what a theme is. They say things like friendship or love or kindness, and that's not completely correct. Theme is a full sentence. It's usually pretty cliche. If you give me a one-word answer like loyalty, that is a topic. That's a topic. You want to expand it because there's more to it than just loyalty. And usually with themes, when you expand it into a full sentence, they're usually really cliche. So like love conquers all. We've heard that a million times. Or, bullying will ruin the world. They're very cliche. But that's okay because that's how you know that's a good theme. Because remember, the theme is the moral of the story. It's the lesson that you learn after reading the book or watching the movie. So instead of just saying loyalty, expand it into a sentence like loyalty to a leader is not always noble. Now, how do you find the theme? There's two really good ways to particularly look for the theme. The best way to find the theme is to pay attention to what the main character learns. So, does the main character change? 99% of your time, your main character will change. And so, watching how they change will lead you to the theme. Also, does the character realize something he or she did not know before? For example, this might be your Harry Potter, Snape dies, he collects his tears and takes them to the pensive, and then discovers that Snape really wasn't the bad guy, he was a very good guy all along. And so the theme may be people are not always who they seem to be. And then finding the theme, another way to do it is watch the conflict. The conflict will, and how it's resolved, will reveal your theme also. So typically, let's say we said 2 friends find a wallet, 1 friend wants to return it to the owner, because they're goody two-shoes or whatever, and the other wants to keep it because, free money. But they end up deciding that they will return the wallet, and as a result, they get to share a small reward. So a theme you could take from that is people are often rewarded for making the right moral decision. So watch the conflict, watch the characters, figure out what the main character is supposed to learn, and how they go from there. All right, now going back. So again, I hope you were able to fill this out. If you look through the Prezi, which is here on Canvas, you can go through these and fill in the blanks. These blue boxes again, so your movie's rising action, give me like 2 or 3. What's the climax? I will not be upset if you, spoil your movie for me. I've probably seen it. It's not a big deal. Now, once you get to the end of the Prezi, you will see 2 more examples. So what I want you to do is to click on this link. It will take you to the music video for Taylor Swift's You Belong With Me, and I want you to plot it out on the plot diagram. Now, I know for some reason it's a little hard, so if you want to, you can go into, so click into this box, go into Insert, Drawing, and New. And in here, you will be able to draw out the plot diagram. And you can make little notes and do it that way, but I know some of you guys just don't want to fiddle with that, and that's fine. So if you don't want to actually go out and draw it, you can just put like exposition and then write out whatever it is, and then inciting an incident. Can't talk and type at the same time, and then whatever that is, and go through it and fill it in to the best of your ability. And then when you're done with that, you are going to click on this link, watch this video, and plot it out on the plot diagram. If you can do these two things independently, I will know that you got it and you are good to go. If you have any further questions, don't be afraid to reach out and let me know. And when you get done with this, go ahead and turn it in, and I will see you tomorrow.